next we have the next panel. We are going to have Meredith come up. This is something that we're all wondering about, the built environment. Meredith is going to be talking about what's our workspace gonna, or not workspace, where do we go shopping? I wanna know, where can I go shopping? And how can I go and try on some clothes? Tina, you're gonna tell me what we get to do. How can we like go out and touch the same products and play with it, right?
Absolutely.
Mary, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? What a great morning of talks and so many more exciting ones to come. So thankful to you for putting the summit together and giving us a chance to kind of connect and share our perspectives.
I love this. I had no, first we weren't even going to do it. I love that you guys, we built this in a month and it's just amazing. All the people who've come together, all the amazing voices that we're going to be hearing from. Mary and I actually talk about connections. Mary and I go back years in the design industry when we were back at, I think, IIDA.
That's right, 2003.
A fellow designer and a fellow surfer.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to social distance with you in the water.
I know, we need to paddle out soon, for sure.
Yeah, you need to paddle out. All right, with that, I'm going to leave this to you. I'm going to sit back and have you introduce our illustrious built panel, right?
Okay, great. Thanks, Ange. Appreciate it.
Bye.
So like Ange was just saying, I thought it would be really relevant to the theme of the conference to talk about, architecture, the built environment, and kind of the combination of how, architecture has obviously been disrupted by this global pandemic, but then on the flip side, it also has the capability to design disruptive behaviors intentionally. So I've got some really amazing colleagues and friends that are joining us today. Randall Stone, Shay Lamb, Tina Lai. And they really bring in three unique perspectives from the architectural design community. Tina on the hospitality owner development side, Shay from the architectural interiors side, focusing on hospitality and retail design, and then Randall with the brand and experiential design. So, they all work in and around the hospitality space, the retail space, but kind of from these three very unique perspectives. So my name's Meredith Goodwin. I am a co-founder and chief strategist for an education technology startup, but I spent 16 plus years in the architectural interiors space, starting as a product designer and then shifting to global sales. And so, yeah, these people, Randall, Shay, Tina, I have been so fortunate and lucky to come across them in my working world and was very eager to pull them into my network. So I'm really excited that we can kind of all be with you today and start this conversation. So I'll give you a little background on everyone and then we'll sort of jump right into some questions. Don't forget we're doing Q&A at the end in Slack. So make sure that you post those questions for us in the Slack channel and we'll make sure to get to you at the end. You guys are doing well. I can see Randall, I can see Shay. Tina, you're here with us. Great to see you all. So I'll quickly run through. Randall is the founder of eMaze Design. He's a big picture creative thinker with expansive knowledge of consumer behaviors across industries. He's been designing and innovating customer experiences for over 30 years at some of the world's leading brand consultancies. He's educated as an architect and he uses deep understanding of design thinking to craft much more than spaces, making amazing flagship experiences, behaviors, and brands. Shay Lamb is the managing executive and studio creative director at TPG Architecture. He's an experienced design director with a demonstrated history of design leadership in architecture, interiors, and planning industry, focused on, as we said earlier, hospitality, retail, and the workplace. Shay previously led efforts at WeWork for WeLive, at Perkins Eastman Architects for residential and hospitality interior design, and he's an alumni of Tony Chi and Associates in New York and Tamatsu Yagi Design in California. He's an avid cook and is always hungry. We actually had, I think, our initial bonding moment over a wine and food tasting event in New York City. Tina, so excited to have Tina here. She is an interior architect with over 20 years of experience in spa, retail, hotel, and multifamily residential design. She leads projects in global hospitality development, currently working on the ownership development side for Stanford hotels, both as a designer and a project liaison for interdisciplinary teams. She's highly experienced in the business side of hotels, planning budgets, purchasing, negotiating agreements between clients and contractor vendors. And she has an in-depth understanding of business and brand objectives seen through the entire design build process. So welcome, you guys. It's so nice to see you and glad you could be with us today. We're very honored for that. So we're going to start with, the part of the conversation where we're reflecting on how design and architecture has been disrupted, right? So we're all kind of in a state of reacting to this global pandemic and sort of reacting to what's happened. I'd pose this question to all three of you. What do you think some of the fundamental ways a global disruption such as COVID-19 has affected design and user experiences? Randall, do you want to start?
Sure, and thanks for having me on this fun panel and participating in today. I think that disruption is the fuel of innovation of design, and it also allows for behavioral shifts that are sometimes slow or impossible to make. In the built environment, we're going to create a new perception and awareness of space and distances and services. But from a behavioral side, we're going to start having a change, a heightened sense of health and well-being, and a sense of mindfulness. You see that a lot, and a lot of talk about being mindful is ever prevailing. For me, the biggest outcome will be new types of preparedness for the built environment and the way people will be mentally prepared for what's next disruption is going to hit them. If you think about the pandemic of global warming, out of that came sustainability. If we think about 9/11 and that disruption, we started to think about security, whether it's in office buildings or airports, differently. And now we're going to need to adapt and flex to this health crisis and even lesser things than pandemics. Spaces are going to need, and people are going to need to know and be comfortable with new behaviors, new spaces, and what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, Shay, that touches on some things that you are dealing with every day. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, and I agree with you, Randall. Like 9/11, I mean, we've had to deal with some major changes in design and the way we approach design, at least in the immediate and near terms, because of COVID. We know, the COVID's immediate effects, like on the economy, supply chain, cost, pricing, availability, and, our client spending. So it's all been impacted, which in turn obviously impacts design. I know in working with our own hospitality clients in particular, we've had to ask ourselves that very question that Randall just said about preparedness, and that has changed policy. So I think that company policies, governmental policies are all going to be impacted, and that is fundamentally going to change the way we approach design. And, Randall mentioned it, the Green Initiative, for example, and, remember when the first time you saw that little pop-up in the bathroom that says, if you want your towels changed, put them on the floor, and if you don't, hang them up, right? So that was a Green Initiative that became a company policy. And so does COVID now change company policies about how our cleaning cycles or cleaning cycles of hotels and whatnot? So I think we can't predict the future, but being prepared for it is really going to be the key. And it's about company policy, it's about governmental policies, and that's going to have long-lasting impact on design.
Absolutely. And Tina, what is your perspective on how we've been disrupted by COVID?
Well, COVID has, in many aspects, has turned our lives upside down and really shifted a lot of our notions about what we should expect in a hospitality experience. So I will talk mostly about what I do as a designer, and I think like any other designer, one of the things that we do is we solve problems and we address those problems. And the second thing that we do is we try to control the environment. So with COVID, it has set a new measure for us with this kind of new grid of the 6x6, and has really changed what we perceive as being able to be face-to-face or eye-to-eye. And these are two key things that are very, very important when we set up hospitality experiences. So for me, the biggest challenge right now is to find the right measuring stick to continue to have relevant interactions, but with a totally different kind of measure.
Absolutely. Yeah, the 6x6, we're obviously all operating in a new world where, proximity is not really going to be a part of our day-to-day experience anymore. I mean, you kind of touched, Tina, on some of the challenges that poses for you as a designer. Shay, what do you think some of the opportunities might be given that sort of restriction or constraint, I guess you would call it?
Yeah, there are plenty of opportunities to tell the story of your brand or your culture through design. And now more than ever, given what's happening not only with COVID but other things in the world, it's more important to make your statements through action rather than words. So there are plenty of challenges. I think keeping the human social aspect of this is really important, as Tina said. We're not only in hospitality, but in all environments, we deal with workplace all the time, and how to keep your employees motivated, your colleagues motivated, well-being is important. So that's the opportunity right now is to change your culture. If you needed a change, the opportunity right now is to tell the story of your brand in a way that is fundamental and meaningful. Keeping it human-centric is really important, and that's my team sort of deals with that on a daily basis. When we approach our design approach deals with that on a daily basis. We're trying to leverage technology and making everything frictionless to help our commercial clients out. But then there's always that notion of that face-to-face and that eye contact that's really important. So it's critical to be able to keep that human touch as in that eye contact that Tina mentioned. Yeah.
Absolutely. Tina, were there any other opportunities that you kind of see as a result of these constraints of the pandemic?
Sure. I live in the mindset of thinking about crisis and opportunity. So one of the things that is a huge opportunity right now is really to take advantage of what we have on hand as new technology. And we're going to touch on that a little bit later in our further discussion. But right now, I see as for us hotel people, using technology to our advantage and finding a moment right now to use it.
Absolutely, to change some of those user experiences. That's really, really great. And it kind of leads into our next question. So we're kind of talking about some of the negative aspects of constraints of the pandemic, but what positive experiences have resulted from the pandemic for you all as, designers, creative thinkers? Have you been able to incorporate any changes into your workflow or your design thinking processes? Randall, what do you think about that?
Well, for me personally, there's been some positive outcomes. One of them, while not physically connected with people like I used to be, I feel like I'm more connected than ever. I'm more connected with my family because I'm constantly checking on them. I'm connected with friends to socialize. In the past, you might go out once or twice a week for a happy hour with friends or something. But who hasn't had like back-to-back virtual happy hours during this pandemic? And And while the technology has existed for a long time, you know, video technology, we've all gotten so comfortable with it. I'm talking to friends, which I could have done in the past, but didn't, in Israel and Korea and different places. And so, but even into my work now, I during this pandemic, I won a new project. We decided we were going to have to do it. It was for a new restaurant design. We were an experience, and we were going to have to do it 100% remotely. So we had to design a whole process from, you know, getting the download to understanding the context, everything about it. And the thing is, we're doing the whole thing. It's designed with zero travel, which is something designers never did. And our team is in San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, New Jersey, and Brazil. So, you know, I never thought, and I was actually quite apprehensive. So I do think that some new behaviors and familiarity has come out of this that will maybe facilitate better dialogues and more connections when we thought weren't possible.
Yeah, sometimes it's amazing until you're forced to do something, right? You can have all these excuses and be reluctant about it. Shay, what about from your perspective? What about at TPG? How have you seen things change possibly on a positive note?
Yeah, we have been using technology as a communication tool and leveraging that. And what's really amazing is priorities have changed. Things that used to go in an email like are going on different methods of communications. And in my personal life, it's again, my priorities have changed. Now I'm much more in tune with my family, with my friends. That live-work balance has been really, really great because I do step away from tech. I do step away from my phone now more than ever because I'm making more important calls, so to speak, to my family, to my friends, rather than just constantly on email. But what I do think is really, really cool, especially within New York, is this move to a very European model, which I love. Less cars, more sidewalk cafes, right? You know, you're walking down the street and the street is closed and, you know, there's like a bunch of people out and they're eating and they're drinking. And I hope this European model really, really stays because it would be super rad.
I do too. It's so amazing.
In the summer is fantastic. I mean, walking down the street is,
I mean, especially when we've had such a contrast, right? Where if you walked, like, you know, I used to do these long walks when there was no one out. So it's like the zombie apocalypse, like you barely see one other person. And now it's like sidewalk cafes, people are just like enjoying themselves and, but all outdoors, all safe. So yeah.
We went from like I Am Legend to Paris in springtime. So it's like, it's meant to, I'm loving this. I hope it stays. I hope that changes some of our governmental policies in order to close sidewalks to cars.
Close some streets. Yeah, absolutely. Make it more pedestrian friendly. And Tina, what about for you? I know you're in San Francisco. How has some of this, you know, had positive ramifications for you at Stanford and in San Fran?
Well, I've been doing my work for a long time. And one of the things that you have to know about me is that I'm one of those persons that is at the airport, or we used to be at the airport at least 3 times a week, going coast to coast, or mostly coast to coast nowadays because our projects are mostly domestic, and I'm working in a project in Seattle, which is a city that's only less than 2 hours away. So one thing that has changed for me, obviously, is that I'm not traveling as much, and that has really changed our perception of how we work together. And one of the things I want to stress is that, again, technology is offering so many possibilities, you know, and technology is awesome when it works, but as you can see from my background, I had a little glitch. But that teaches us to be flexible, and that is a great thing, because if WeChat doesn't work, you can get on Slack or you can get on Zoom, and it's a lot that's being offered there. But that means that if you cannot be physically present, you can be present online, you can be on the phone, and that is an amazing and positive thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I think it's just nice to we've been receiving so much negative news to sort of think about the flip side of that and how we've had positive behavior changes and ramifications. Like as soon as the pandemic kind of started, I had a great friend, Karen Owens, who started a global group chat on WhatsApp. And all of a sudden I had this wonderful global British community, and every morning I would wake up to their jokes and, industry insight, and, we're bouncing the ball back and forth. So it has been a great way to keep a global dialogue going, even if virtually. So, now let's get into a little more about, we talked about, pandemic standards that might shape around that, changes to building codes, to Randall and Shay, this new sense of preparedness. Like, what are some examples of things that, either your clients are requesting or you think might come about as a result of?
Yeah, well, for me, obviously there'll be new legislation. I think that's going to come out. But also, I just think people are going to learn new behaviors. And I'd like to use the analogy of the weather, right? We all check the weather sometimes multiple times a day, but almost every day. And it tells us what we're going to wear or what we're going to do or when we're going to do it. And we even watch the weather very closely when a catastrophic event is coming, if bad weather. So like if you think about that, bad weather, they have codes that help prepare us for us with hurricane codes and of such. But there's also behaviors, I have a home by the water and been through a couple of hurricanes, and I know what to do. I know to get out my plywood and board up my windows and get the heck out of town. So if we think about our oncoming health crises in the future, and it won't be just pandemics either, we will see even more frequently. There'll still be epidemics. There'll be bad flu seasons. And so we will be more prepared, and we will know it, and we'll be tracking it. So, masks will be the norm. They'll be something we see on a regular basis. They're not going away. Not that it'll be mandated, but maybe it will have times that they are more mandated. Social distancing is totally part of our nomenclature now. So that's not going to go away. And environments, restaurants, and everything, they will know when health warnings are coming, and they'll know what to do, just like in a hurricane, to mitigate damage and for life safety. So it's just going to put another level of understanding both on the built space and on behavioral attitudes, I think.
It's funny how reluctant so many people are to change their behaviors. I mean, we all read the stories throughout the country about people like refusing to wear a mask and things like this. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we all kind of have to go through this shift. I mean, I'm like you, I don't see the mask wearing going away anytime soon, but and
I don't think it's going to be standards. I guess one of this is, I don't think it's going to be a standard that is constant. I think it's going to be this idea that it's going to flex. There'll be mask peaks and no mask peaks. It's not this is what we're going to do forever. This is what we're going to do when we need to do it.
And you're right, like this reopening process state by state has been so touch and go, stop, start, like thinking we're in the clear and that you can kind of open up, quickly, and then having to reverse that sort of step. Shay, what are your thoughts here?
I absolutely agree. I mean, policies are going to change, and you're probably going to see as much of a presence of the health department is in restaurants and hotels. It's probably going to play a bigger role in commercial operations for sure. Health and well-being is going to be, is at the core and the focus of everyone's minds. Mental well-being primarily, with the fact that we are, so socially distanced, and I live alone, so health and well-being is a common conversation during the meetings that we have within our company. But certainly, lead well initiatives, cleaning cycles that affect not only the building but the person. All of these will have an impact. But what's interesting about the mask is it's only a weird thing primarily in the Western world. In the Eastern world, masks have been around for decades at the very least. When I fly into anywhere in China, Japan, if somebody is sick, they wear a mask, and that's not, it's a very common thing.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so surprising that it's like people are up in arms about the mask, and I'm like, dude, it's not a new thing. It's certainly
it's funny. It's definitely obviously not new. Asia's like so far ahead of the curve compared to us in the mask wearing department. I think it's this weird combination of, after people have been trapped inside like caged animals for so long, they're like, you can't tell me what to do, Uncle Sam. But what I think is really beautiful about the willingness of someone, to wear the mask is it really is about protecting other people, not just yourself. So it's kind of like this for the greater good, like the chances of you contacting the virus drop by like 85% if both parties are wearing a mask and you pass each other or you're in a small space. So yeah, it's kind of like take one for the team, people. But this topic kind of gets us into our next question about, some of the innovations in the built environment that might rise out of these really tight hygienic and socially distanced constraints. Tina, I want to pitch this one to you because I know in hospitality design, we all think of our favorite hotel experiences, and it's usually like gorgeous plush furniture and it's like velvet drapes, so how do you think that now your design palette might have to adapt to some of these like hygienic and socially distanced constraints?
Okay, I'm going to speak more from a standpoint of a case study, because all hotels are different. They're resort hotels, they're business hotels, there are long-term stay hotels. So I've been fortunate to be working on a very relevant project that's next to Amazon headquarters in Seattle for over 2 years now. And our footprint for rooms are quite small. And we have had to look at every inch of space to see how we can get the most efficiency to give the guest a sense of space, real space, not materials, but space. And on another layer, there are the components that make your room cozy and also comfortable. So in that respect, we have been looking even prior to COVID, because it is a LEED building, and as a segue to the present COVID problems, I think both we are facing just a problem that's coming from environmental issues. So we look at materials that are durable and also cleanable with certain agents that we have to do for the hotel operations. So nowadays, what we're talking about is getting rid of the clutter, sticking to the essentials, which is good lighting, a comfortable bed, space for the items the guest has, but not unused space, not unnecessary space where there can be things that fall behind and that you can't reach, you can't clean. And we're looking a lot at textiles to see which textiles offer some qualities such as antimicrobial coatings or so forth that will take the constant cleaning and using, unfortunately, some of these stronger cleaning solvents that are required by COVID.
Yeah, kind of like going back to like a sense of simplicity and, yes. I think it also that emotional level of comfort when you're in a space, and like tying back to Shay's point, how do you design a well thought out experience for a client where they walk into the space and they automatically feel like, okay, I don't need to sanitize this whole room myself. It's like already you're a comfort level with how clean and sparse it might be. Yeah, that's really interesting.
And a well thought out room, you know, when you walk into a well thought out room, you immediately has an effect on you. That's a sort of the minimalist aesthetic, you know, which means that less is more. And this is a time in which we are trying to communicate to our customers that less is going to be more.
Absolutely. And like the less is more theme, you know, I'm thinking of, you know, hotel hospitality design and some of our favorite places to gather, you know, the hotel lobbies, heading down to the Beekman for a cocktail, Randall, Shay, like in some of these dense urban environments, New York City, San Francisco, London, you know, are we going to be able to see new experiences being created that are going to bring people together, even though we sort of can't be too close together?
I personally think that, yeah, we will be able to, you know, social distancing is not going to it doesn't have to disrupt our experiences. It means we all have to be mindful, which is, you know, something we're talking a lot about now. An example is I saw a place that had an outdoor area and they wanted to create a bar. They painted the ground with polka dots that were about 6 to 7 feet apart. They had a drink pickup area, and then you kind of got your spot. You reserved your spot, and you know what was interesting is that the socialization was going on was normal. It was just the context and the layout that they were doing it in was different. And you know, if someone tried to, you know, it was kind of very jovial, but you know, if someone tried to steal your spot, your dot, it got a little controversial. But so I just think it's going to cause us to get creative when we need to. But you know, socialization is something it's how you treat people. It's what you say to them. It's not the distance. You know, I find 6 or 7 feet not really that far. Wearing a mask really not that difficult. So I don't want to see that as a limitation.
Okay, interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we've already saw the circles at the parks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does not prevent anybody from being social whatsoever. I'll tell you, if you walk through Central Park, it's like nothing ever happened. And I mentioned also before, you know, the European model with the closure of street closures and the sidewalk cafes. It's 100% not stopping anybody from positive social interactions. So we're wily. So
yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I guess kind of now looking at the flip side, kind of stepping out from this constraint of all these, you know, hygienic and newly distanced parameters, like moving forward into the post-pandemic future, you know, how can we as architectural designers be proactive and sort of create some unique branded experiences that will enrich people's lives, rather than feeling like we're kind of reacting to a constraint. Shay, I know we talked before about some, you know, kind of going the extra mile maybe with building standards. Do you want to give us your thoughts on that?
Sure. I mean, you know, with LEED, it was really building centric and building focus, and you know those things will change. But you know, with regards to well standards, which focus more on the people within the space, you know, I think those standards will likely have to change or evolve, and it's about the physical well-being, but you know, a greater sense of emotional mental well-being. You know, all of this is to alleviate fears first and foremost. I mean, Meredith, I know that you and I were chatting about getting into an elevator, and even now, when I get into an elevator or I see another person in an elevator, I'm like, wait, I don't I don't want to get in with you. But so
Yeah.
we've got to do something to sort of calm those fears. So I think that well will need to be reconsidered or evolve. And their building standards have got to change, you know, to refocus more on the users. You know, right now it's all about a business decision and a real estate decision. You know, how many square feet per person can you actually allow within a space? Well, that's a business decision. That's really about real estate and you know,
maximizing ROI, right?
exactly. And it's the same building, but if the use group is for X, you can get more people in. But if the use group is for Y, you can get less people in. And that's, we've got to really look at the way we measure and calculate real estate and business and turn it back to human-centric sort of metrics. So.
And I wonder, like, after I saw Cushman and Wakefield, once the pandemic was really at its height in Asia, they had released kind of a new commercial office standard showing examples of, like Randall mentioned, like the workstations, instead of being back to back, were all separated, and there was a graphic on the carpet, so you knew walking up to someone's desk that you were within, you know, a safe distance. And I mean, it almost looked like every person had a CEO's office. It's like every desk had like a beautiful window and you were like so far from everyone. I was like, how will that ever work in a dense, expensive market, you know, like New York City, like San Francisco? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the powers that be and your clients, developers, brands kind of react to that problem of, like, you know, it's the new normal, but how do you make the numbers make sense and have people feeling comfortable? Randall, did you what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think it's interesting because we talked earlier, our earlier conversation was how disruption has sort of driven or had us thinking about design differently. I do think, though, disruptive design can drive change, which I see is a counter, where you're using a design to actually change things. And that's always existed throughout our life. But if we think about technologies like VR and AI and augmented reality and how they can be conjoined with the built environment, I think we're going to really see newer and richer experiences that have been born out of this sort of commingling of the brick and the click, or the technological world and the built world. And so I do think there is an opportunity and a role for disruptive design to help drive change, which is different than reacting to as the outcome. Another one that, you know, if you think about improving lives, and one of the things that I thought was fascinating, and I see the potential now in so many ways, which is, you know, at least in New York, they had to stand up all these hospitals, and they built one in Central Park, and then they put one inside of St. John the Divine. And their ability to create like agile hospitals, I thought was amazing. And if you think of the potential of how something like that, of moving healthcare needs, it's always been perceived as a very static thing.
Yeah.
To be able to move it around the world to situations, to areas, not even underdeveloped areas, just areas. I think that that's actually, you know, this idea of creating agile healthcare experiences and environments is something that's going to come out of this that's really going to help improve the world as a whole.
Absolutely. Yeah, they brought the Navy ship up. They converted the Javits Center here in New York to, instead of having big trade shows, have little individual hospital treatment rooms. So yeah, it really was a Herculean effort in a short period of time. And touches on the power of design. Sorry, Tina, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the positive things, and I'm really going to try to concentrate on the positive things as I talk, because, you know, our industry has been in, has been really, really challenged. And some people use such a word as decimated, right? So we are trying to get people to come back and stay with us, stay with our hotels. So one aspect of allowing people to stay is to assure people, to give people a sense of safety that that when you come into our hotels, that they're being cleaned to a certain standard. So and all the hotel brands have been really, really busy this past few months, even though they have been quote unquote decimated. They have been trying to craft a new operational model and new messages, and you're going to be hearing a lot from big hotel brands and what they are calling clean stays. And the clean stay message will be very, very detailed to tell the guests, you know, exactly how is the hotel managing cleaning, because that is very forefront in our minds when we go to sleep on a bed that's not our own, to use a bathroom that's not our own, to make sure that you know this room has been prepared for us. And I think this is very, very positive, because it makes hotel operators and owners really up their game and really kind of have to adhere to a standard that protects the safety of the clients, of our guests.
That's such a great point. I look at it like Westin used to have that fitness concept for their hotels that went over really well. It was kind of all about like waking up, healthy breakfast. If you forgot your running shoes at home, we have some in the hotel for you. It was like they kind of built in a wellness experience to all the guests coming to stay. And now that all of us are so concerned about cleanliness and microbiome kind of little dangers, knowing that you can go somewhere and it's like completely clean. I was mesmerized by, there was a story about in Hong Kong, they were prototyping these sanitizing robots in the airport bathrooms. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how, you know, the new like technologies that come along to kind of partner in that goal of creating a sanitized and clean guest experience. And I hope luxury gets brought into it too. I know we're talking about all these kind of like functional sort of solutions, but I certainly miss the luxury aspect of it. I mean, Tina, for you, what are some of those new technologies that might play a role for disruptive design when we're being proactive in the hospitality environment?
Well, since I've been on this project for quite some time now, you know, we've had a chance to look at a lot of different things that have come to the market. And most of these things are devices that help us control the room technology. So being that we were next to one of the greatest innovating companies, Amazon, it was very appropriate to look at a very high-tech, a very futuristic devices, you know, because people that are in the tech world are already very accustomed to using gadgets to mediate everything that they have to do in life. So such as Alexa, you know, I think in the future, I'm not going to say that's Alexa or someone else, but Alexa will help you turn on the lights, prepare your shower, open the window, call room service. And that is a fantastic addition to the room technology package. Of course, there's a lot of ramifications about, you know, one of the reasons that we could not really come to terms in using this was because of certain privacy issues. And these are going to have to be continued conversations with the guests in order for us to get the consent that they do want such an exciting technology in their room.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about enhancing the guest experience and driving people to want to stay in the property. That's great. Shay, for you, technology, are you at TPG? Are you guys building in new fun?
Absolutely. And, you know, I wanted to say something about, you know, start the shower. I know that I mentioned every time I check into a hotel room, I don't want to speak to anybody. I want to go directly to my room and directly into the shower because I've just got off a long flight. So if Alexa can like start that steam going, I'm all about it. So yeah, technology is great. No, we've been developing a lot of things with our clients, primarily access from the door. You know, we can't control what happens when people get to the door. You know, how they got there to how they got to the hotel or you know, their workplace, but we can control how they get to either their guest rooms or their seats. So things that allow you to call the elevators directly to, you know, when you know that you're coming in without having to push a button, and it takes you directly to your floor, opening a guest room door or opening your work suite. Even check in not only for yourself, but you know, as you're walking through turnstiles, if you need for a commercial space, just going right through and checking in a guest without having the guest stop at security. And even the idea of security being much more of a community manager rather than, you know, a security guard. So we're trying to utilize technology in order to help alleviate, you know, or create this frictionless experience as you start from the door all the way up to your room or suite. But to Tina's point, it really is about consent. And in this world, with digital information being a hot commodity, it's really about consent. How much information are you allowing the machine to gather about you? How much data? And data security is a real threat. So everything's on Facebook anyway. So I don't know, you know, I don't know, you know, it's a two-sided argument. Everything is already on Facebook. So, but it's really about consent. One of our clients, mine's with Ron, we do a lot of some of their experiences, and it's really about, can you walk into a space, pick up something, put it in your bag, and walk out without ever having to talk to a cashier. You know, the answer, the tech is already there, but it's really about consent. Do I really want to give, you know, the machine my information so that I can just simply walk in and out without having to stop? So consent is a real big issue here.
Yeah, obviously it's like there are the pros and the cons, and you're walking that fine line between Big Brother, and it's so nice to have your shower pre-started for you. It's the convenience versus the security risk. I mean, it's kind of along the same lines. We have two sort of final questions, one for Randall and then one for everyone. And we've got a couple questions from the audience to do in the Q&A. Randall, for you with the brand and experiential design, what do you think the top 3 ways hospitality clients are going to want to, you know, provide these more meaningful connections to their brands?
Yeah, well, when I talk to clients and work with hospitality clients, almost any client on building it, I think there are a couple of things. One is besides being authentic, and we've heard a lot about being authentic, I think they're going to need to be much more empathetic and much more attuned to the customer. The customer will be looking that, you know, you have their best interest at heart. I think a second one is that to become a loved brand, of course, you'll have to tell your story. Out of this and the many disruptions we've been going through, you've got to reflect your values as a company or a brand. You have to have meaningful behaviors, so they have to see that you're actually doing and behaving. And all of this, and of course there is the offering, and that offering will have to kind of be safe. But all of these together is going to become the scorecard. And so what I think is brands are going to have to show that they're proactive in the future to make the connection they need. They're going to need to show that, like, they're not going to have to wait till they're legislated or mandated to do things. We're seeing that already now. Businesses, brands are taking the customers, their guests' well-being to mind, their philosophical beliefs to mind, and this is going to be important. It's about, you know, having spaces, it's about creating a brand that you can connect with, and it's no longer a transactional relationship. It's going to have to be this sort of emotional one.
Absolutely. No, those are all really valid points. We've got about 5 minutes left, so I want to have a quick closing question to all the panelists. If you can just kind of have your response be succinct, and then we have one audience question that I'd like to pose to you all. So this is kind of a predictive question about, you know, how will this disruption have changed how we design 5 years down the road? So what do you think is going to stick with us with this massive disruption even in the future? Shay, do you want to get us started?
Fewer, better, fewer things, better, well-designed, thoughtful things, and more sidewalk cafes.
Okay, cool. And Tina, what about you? What's your prediction?
My prediction is that people are going to be a lot more mindful about what is timeless, because all these factors, you know, disasters, pandemics, these are constantly in flux. So as designers, we really have to think, what do we want to express in our design, which stays, and what can be flexible, and what will stay in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Timeless design. I love that. That's such a great point. Randall, for you, what's your prediction?
Their predictions are desires. So I want the CD player to go out of a car and put in a hand sanitizer. So the built-in hand sanitizer in the car.
Yeah.
I predict that the automated door will find new homes. We're going to see the resurgence of the automatic door. And, you know, as Tina was talking earlier, voice activation is here for the long haul. So, you know, we're going to be talking to everything in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are all great predictions. I love the clapper as well to turn things off. So I would add that into the automated drawer. We only have a couple minutes, but I really want to get to the audience question as a closing point. This is from Wanja. I work for a large international organization, and we're currently working on pandemic response for our field offices abroad. Do you have any suggestions for designers that want to introduce holistic approach to design, especially within a large organization?
Wow. Okay, that's a really a big question. I'm not sure I can cover in a couple of minutes, but I do think that you know, you're seeing with COVID a lot of words, you know, a lot of manuals and so forth. So I think the most succinct way is to do a promo that covers like point by point, you know, what are the objectives of what you're trying to do, and so that people have some kind of a manual that kind of condenses everything, because we're living in a world with a lot of information, and most people don't have the time to go back to references that require a lot of education and reading. So I think that to create just a guideline book or a video or communication really that kind of hits the point, allows people to further go into it, you know, to have more information if they want to have it. I think that would be a way to start.
Excellent. Randall, Shay, any thoughts on holistic design approach for a large global org?
No, I think Tina's right. Make it simple. Make it interpretable, and you know, I think those were all the right points.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's it for us, guys. We've got to pass the baton on, but thank you all so much for being here and for participating in this conversation.
Thank you, Meredith.
They're really valuable, and yeah, I hope we'll see you at the happy hour at 5. And yeah, stay in touch. We'll be keeping the conversation going on Slack. So looking forward to that. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.